Hello, welcome to Rodney Illustrations. I'm Wayne, creator of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot deck published by US Games Systems, and today I'm here in Lewisville, Texas with the distinguished owner of the GreenMan Studios, Mr. Arthur Graye, who aside from running the shop is a man of many diverse talents. Arthur, thanks for being my first guest on this new series of interviews.
Hi, thanks for having me here. How are you? I'm good. Today's a good day.
Let's get into some of the background. Aside from the impressive storefront banner, my first observation was all of the beautiful, thriving plants both outside and inside the space. Have you always felt a deep and intuitive connection to nature, or was that something that evolved over time?
So I was always that little kid that was like, the animals would follow me around, like the dogs and all the neighborhood stuff. But we also grew up where my mom has a deep connection to nature. Like we were the house where all the people in the neighborhood, if they found any hurt or sick animals, they would bring them to our house and my mom would fix them up and let them go. So much to the point where maybe I guess 10 years ago, she moved out to the other side of McKinney and has 40 acres and she runs a wildlife rehab. I've always had the connection with animals. We had our two dogs, Snapshot and Flapjack. They were the furry little loves of my life. They died in 2021. A walk of old age after we had them both for 16 years. And I didn't feel right getting another dog so soon. So I redirected all of my attention and love to plants. And that's how that happened. I had to have somewhere to put it all. So, yeah.
Do you grow your own stuff?
I do. I have a whole garden at home. Just the plants in the store are just for fun. But I have a whole garden at home where I grow all of my own herbs and I sell and make a lot of the products and uh, like smoke cleanse and then different herbal incenses, and I make my own Florida water and stuff from the stuff that I grow.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was about to ask how that connection informed your spiritual path.
hmm So nature, I mean, I was raised very, very religious, and it just never felt right. I felt closer to God when I was walking out in the forest than I ever did sitting in a church pew with my family. Um, so it just, I mean, I don't really know how it happened. It just one thing led to another, and that connection, I started making soaps and like bath and beauty products and just things with the different herbs and stuff that I would find, and then I started growing my own, and it's just always been there. It's always been a part of me.
How early in life were you making things like so?
My mid-20s is when I picked that up, probably. Yeah, I struggled for quite a while just finding like what I wanted to do. Um, like I fought tooth and nail to get through art school, and it took me about 6 years, and then I got my degree, and I'm like, well, now what? Because I could definitely be doing what I'm doing now without my art degree. But it's one of those life lessons, like go with the flow instead of kind of fighting against, what do they call it? Dharma. I think they call it Dharma. Yeah, life lessons.
For those of us who may not know, who or what is the Green Man?
So the Green Man, I joke around that it's basically the Celtic version of Mother Nature. But honestly, he goes a lot further than that. The Green Man is basically the spirit of transformation. It's a nature deity. Um, he dates back way further than Christianity. In fact, when you go to Europe and you look in all of the cathedrals and things, you can see the Green Man like up there in the eaves and in the cornerstones. And funny enough, like because when the Catholics moved into the area and had their cathedrals and stuff built, who do you think built them? The pagans, right? So the pagans actually took their gods and put them into the architecture, kind of like flipping the finger to the Catholics, to just assert their relevance, I guess. But it's really interesting because you can see the Green Man all over Europe, but he really is just your connection with nature and transformation, renewal. He goes through, like in pagan mythology, he goes through the 4 different seasons with us through the wheel of the year. And he can, just like the maiden, mother, and the crone, he can represent stages of life as well.
At some point early along your path, when you moved away from traditional religious upbringing, you had another pivotal shift that you shared in another interview. You were deeply involved with another pagan path that I won't name, but you can if you want to. But something still felt incomplete.
Yeah. So when I was 17, I came away from Christianity because I had always felt that it was wrong or not right for me. Since I was like 6 years old. When I was that young, I started having all of the premonitions and the things and the psychic stuff happening, and my mother recognized it because she had kind of been before she became a Christian, she was kind of like a bra burning hippie in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's a big change for her there. But then
I'm sure for her as well.
yeah, she had this kid who's all of a sudden, you know, a little flower child. So she kind of recognized that energy, and she's the only reason that I made it through my childhood, to tell you the truth. But I started having all these things happen at 6 years old. Like I would go out in the backyard and just lift my hand up to the rose bush. I remember having a bird land on my hand and bringing it inside. And all of my mom's friends were like, "Oh my God, he's gonna get lice. Get rid of it." And my mom would just look at me and she's like, "Let's take it outside," you know. And then I would just let it go. But stuff like that happened all the time. And I remember specifically after that first incident with the bird, the way my mom looked at me changed. It's like she recognized it.
Changed them out in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. She knew what was going on, I think, on some subconscious level, even if she didn't want to admit it. But then growing up, you know, in Sunday school as a kid, I think it was the book of Enoch, the book of, what is it? I think it's Ezekiel, maybe. Yeah, it's the book of Ezekiel. They talk about flying discs, like burning discs in the sky. And me being a little kid, I just blurted out that it was aliens, you know, because it's UFOs, right?
It sounds like.
Right. And they just shame me into silence, right? Because that's what they do to kids. And most kids are like, "Oh, I was wrong." But me being me, my
Stood in your truth.
yeah. So like all three of my big astrological signs are cardinal. So like I'm pretty stubborn, and I was like, "No, I'm right. You're wrong." But I just wanted to keep quiet. And so when I was 17, I got way away from that as fast as I could, and I went straight into Wicca. And nothing against Wicca, but it was just as limiting as Christianity to me. Too many rules. I don't need an intermediary to speak to the universe, to speak to God. And the high priestess dynamic kind of just felt too much like having a priest or a preacher in, you know, what I'd grown up in. And so I got away from that. And that didn't last very long at all. I think just maybe a year.
And that's something that you discovered in North Texas.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I grew up here in Lewisville. All of this happened here, yeah. That's why it was so fun to bring the store back into Lewisville to see what I could offer the community I grew up in.
Are you still connected to the people that you were affiliated with back then? No?
No, the only people in my family I talk to are my mother and my stepfather.
I meant with Wicca.
Oh, no.
No.
No, I just kind of delved into it, and I went to a few meetings and stuff and met some people. I never joined a coven, never anything like that. I'd heard way too many just stories about just human drama getting in the way and causing problems. And I've always been a kind of a loner just by nature. And so I just decided to kind of keep it and do my own thing.
Solitary path.
Yeah. So then what you mentioned earlier, though, about the tarot is like when I was going through all of that, like I had these voices in my head that were just screaming. Like all of my psychic stuff was just nuts.
I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
that's in.
Yeah. When I was like, I had it all when I was a kid. And then when I hit adolescence, it kind of went away a little bit because I had other things on my mind. And then in my 18, 19, 20, it just came back full force. And I thought I was going crazy. And so I'm an open book. I don't have anything to hide or anything, but I like did pretty much all the drugs that I could in art school just to try to shut the voices out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't what I was expecting. Usually people try the drugs to get the voices to come in.
Yeah, I was trying just to
suppress.
just stop. Yeah.
Okay.
I literally thought I was going crazy. I have a journal entry from when I was like 23 talking about the 8 different voices in my head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I went to a tarot class, you know, in my later mid 20s, that everything just stopped.
That does not sound like a typical tarot class.
And it was an intuitive tarot class. Like I'm still like she taught me how to read tarot. She's my Reiki master. Her name's PJ Spur. She's wonderful. But it really helped me compartmentalize everything. Like the cards were the perfect outlet for me to organize all of the psychic phenomena and I don't know, detritus that was going on in my head because it was just flying around like a pinball machine in there and it was driving me nuts. So that's probably why I connected with the tarot so much because it was a place of peace for me.
For you and for me, tarot was somewhat of a catalyst. Many people who are drawn to metaphysical studies often begin or are catalyzed by the tarot. And it's not about regular readings, but usually more about study, journaling, meditational, personal ritual. For me, it began through painting the cards following a significant life event. But have you noticed similar patterns within your community, the people that you've interacted with?
Yeah. No, it's like we joke that it's like the gateway drug.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's a good way. It's a good entry point into all of this stuff. I think that you can use pretty much anything as an entry point, but I think tarot is a very vivid. I mean, I look at the cards as like allies. They're like my friends. You know, I'm looking at the whole wall of cards over there, and like, I love all of them. The different kinds, the different. I think it really appealed to me because of my art history. Like just when I look at a color, I see more than just that color. You know what I mean? And I think that people who have a little bit more psychic sense, I think that they're drawn to everything that the cards can tell you. You know what I mean? So I do think it's a good entry point. I have noticed a lot of people, like I've been teaching the intuitive tarot class since that intuitive tarot class that I took way back then. I think I started teaching it about 2 years later. So what, 14, 15 years now, every other Thursday. And we've had so many people come through and some of them, you know, they show a lot of interest and then they just fade out. But then some of them like take it and run with it like I did, you know? So it really just depends, I think, on your own experience and what you're looking for.
Okay. You've spoken to me about taking a very grounded and practical approach to your spirituality. And especially when you're interfacing with clients, that comes out.
Yes.
The metaphysical space can sometimes veer into the very abstract and overly woo-woo, for want of a better term.
Absolutely.
And you've mentioned that your Capricorn nature may influence this method. Why is that groundedness important to you, and how does it shape your practice?
Okay, so it's the root of my practice, honestly. I think that a lot of people, first off, I'm not afraid. I've never been afraid of stating my opinions. I've never been afraid of like pissing people off. And it happens on occasion. Usually I don't do it on purpose anymore. When I was younger, I you know, would maybe push some buttons, but I don't do that anymore.
I think a lot of us were guilty of that.
Yeah. But you know, we grow out of it, right? So I still look at this just like any other industry, you know, even though it is a huge part of my life. I'm in this community 24/7. But I think a lot of people come into it expecting, you know, everyone to get along and like we're wearing white and singing Kumbaya, and that's just not the way that it really is. You know, we're just people. We're all human, right? And I think a lot of people come to metaphysics, paganism, witchcraft. I think they come to this because a lot of times they have no control in their life and they're looking to assert control. And I think that's why we have a lot of negativity in this community sometimes.
Because people are using that as a vehicle for control over or circumstance.
Exactly.
They feel powerless.
Yeah. The powerlessness it gives people a sense of autonomy that they don't have otherwise. And and then other people like myself, I wasn't attracted to this because of that. This was just the way that I always was. And when I found it, I was like, oh, okay, now I feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can come at it from different perspectives. But I think to get to your question, I feel like we're all here for a reason, right? And we need to pay attention to what that reason is. I think that we, at this point, we're all incarnated on Earth to do something, to do a job, perform something. And I think that if people get way off into woo-woo, like you said, and I've encountered people over the years that are like, I'm just waiting for the mothership to come and take me home because they're convinced that they're an alien energy, right? Well, they might be an alien energy, but why did that alien energy incarnate on this planet at this time, right? Why are we here? What are we doing? We need to pay attention to this, so that's I like
right.
pull people back down out of the ether and like help them like figure out what we can do about now.
The mothership is just like waiting for a messiah or something else.
Yeah, I think that those people they definitely are looking for something, and I think not to disparage them or say anything bad really about them, but I think it's an excuse for them to continue being the way that they are. You know what I mean? But then, we use a lot of things for excuses.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it myself. So
the Capricorn thing,
yes.
the structure.
Yeah. So the weird thing is, I'm a Capricorn sun. And then if you know anything about astrology, I am a Cancer rising, which is the exact opposite of Capricorn, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we got stubborn bullheadedness over here. We're going to do exactly what we want to do. And then we have like emotional kind of a mess over here, right? And then my moon is Libra, which is the scales.
Okay.
So my life is it's a struggle to balance those two things. I joke around that I am an emotional Capricorn, which is a mess. So I think that a mixture of that allows me a unique perspective, because at one point, like, I had the Capricorn inside my head yelling, this can't be real. What are you thinking? And then I had the Cancer who's just like, yeah, let's go with it. And then the Libra is kind of like just the mediator between the two. So yeah, I think that it's interesting because I think that the Cancer rising gives me the attributes, the emotional attributes, and the ability to kind of tap in to the universe or my intuition or my higher self or whatever you want to call it. Different rooms, same house. But then the Capricorn allows me to have a more analytical view of it. I approach everything from a more scientific point of view due to my Capricorn nature. I believe that magic, energy, all of these things are just science that we haven't been able to explain yet. I think probably one of the worst things that ever happened to humanity was when we split religion and spirituality from science, because to me it's the same thing.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. From all of my interactions with you, you've always come across as down-to-earth, approachable, sincere, and despite what you just revealed to me, humble. But you're also a multifaceted creative person, as we discussed. You found a beautiful way to now integrate that into your artistic expression with your spiritual service, like crafting the beads, candle fixings, working with plants, alchemy, the floral water that I saw on your Instagram feed the other day.
Yeah.
On your professional website, there are a lot of photographs that you've taken of the places that you visited. All right, so let's kind of segue into the travel aspect.
Yeah.
Has exploring different landscapes and cultures informed your spirituality, and also?
Yeah, so I think that everything in my life has been just kind of spiritually guided. I think that everybody is, if they listen. You know what I mean? I think that people who are extremely unhappy with their lives aren't really paying attention to the paths that are being presented to them. That's a different story, but that's kind of what I help my clients find, was just to pay attention to the pathways that are being offered. I've always listened. I've always had a voice in my head or in my gut. I've actually had my spirit guides to get me out of harm's way. I've actually felt physical slaps on the back of my head, like the physical interaction with these things. So
That is not something that's uncommon in like Jamaican
Really?
folklore.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sitting in my car one day and I was about to do something really stupid, and I just like bam bam on the back of my head, and I literally turned around in my car to look and see if there was someone in my back seat, because it was so that was interesting. I still did the stupid thing, and then after the fact, I was like, oh, that's what that was. All right, but
We are humans.
right, and I was 22, and yeah, it was a mess. But I think that like I said, I've always just listened to the voices that have told me what. I mean, that sounds crazy, right? But there's a difference between like chemical imbalance and what we're talking about, right?
There's a saying, trust your intuition.
Yeah, like you gotta listen and trust your intuition. When I was 19, I grew up here in Lewisville, and like my family, like I'm the first one in my family to go to college. I'm the first one in my family to like get out of the country. I just never fit in, and I was just always drawn to do things bigger than where I came from. So when I was 19, I used some of my extra money from my school loans to go to Europe. And I just backpacked across England and France by myself when I was 19. I told my parents, and they were like, "You're not going." And I was like, "Well, I bought the tickets, so I'll see you later." Pick me up at the airport. And it changed a lot, just like I knew it would. I wasn't surprised. I had more culture shock coming back here than going anywhere else, and I hold to that today after I've visited 21 countries at this point, and I feel more comfortable in other places than I probably ever will here. But travel, I mean, when you realize that the world is really not that big, like I was in London and I met people from Richardson, Texas on the London Bridge, and that happens like a lot in our travels. So it changes your perspective on things and makes you realize how not necessarily insignificant we are, but how small we are compared to everything. You know what I mean?
Do you think, generally speaking, people have more in common than we do have different, or is it contrary to that?
I think that I mean, obviously, I think we have more in common because we are all human. We have biological aspects, like we're all part of the human race. But when it comes to likes and, personality and things like that, I feel like we're very, very diverse. I think it's very important. I think that's why it's very important to find your people. Find the people who resonate with you.
Wise.
People say tribe, but I don't use that. I don't like that word. But just your group, your people.
Find your people.
Yeah, your family, your chosen family. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
That seems to be an American phenomenon. The insular nature of the culture here. There's a large amount of people that do not travel, do not go outside of their state, their city they're on.
Yeah.
But there are quite a few people like yourself that do. What do you think? Is it about? Is it the vastness of the continent?
Oh no, I don't know. Not to be too conspiratorial, but yeah, I think that we're conditioned to think that it's really hard to travel, and like people even. Because with all the photographs and everything that I've taken and all the stuff, people are like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. Where was that taken?" Blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, Prague. And they'll be like, "Oh." And I get this whole like change in their energy sometimes. And they look at me like I must have money, like he is so lucky. He must have, he must be rich. I'm not. Like I took me and my husband to Paris, France, and Paris, London, and Barcelona. And I spent like $3,000 because I just know how to do it. You know what I mean? I think that we're conditioned to think that it's harder than it is. I think it's a control factor, honestly. I don't think that this country really wants its people to think for themselves. And I think that travel enables people, it
expands.
turns on something in their head where they're like, oh, this isn't just like a little pocket universe here. Like that's not, there's so much more
Were there any unexpected challenges or surprises along the way?
I was probably in my early 20s, and I was in Shavasana after a yoga class, and that's the resting pose where you're laying there meditating. And I open my eyes, and literally I see like the green man, like that picture of my logo, like right above me. And I hear in my head that I'm supposed to mix my artwork with my spirituality. And I was like, okay, because at that point I had the GreenMan Studios for the spiritual stuff and the Arthur Graye Studios for my photography. Very separate entities. So I got the message that I was supposed to meld the two, so I just immediately started. And I had one photo in particular called the Oracle. I put it together from like 5 different, there's a total photo montage, and I entered it into this gallery. They were like, oh, we love it, we'll take it. And it sold opening night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so complete turnaround when I started listening to that guidance.
Following the intuition.
And then I started to use, I was taking my yoga classes, and I really liked the way that the prayer beads looked, when you wear them. And so I got into that. I was managing a world market at that point, or I was a supervisor there, and I bought some beads, and I was wearing them, and I brought them home, and my dog grabbed them, split them, and I went into 108 different directions. Okay. So after that, I looked up how, because I'm a maker, I looked up how to repair them, and I just got totally sucked into how they were traditionally made. And so I started making them, and they started selling. Like, people were like, hey, could you make me one? Could you make me one? And then I posted on Etsy, and I sold like 3 in one day, and I realized there's something there. And that's where the GreenMan Studios started.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Did you say 108 for a reason? That's a significant number in Buddhism.
It is. Right? It is. So all the prayer beads are traditionally 108 or a factor of 108. Yeah. So there's 108, 54, and 27. Those are the 3 different sizes that I make. And I teach all of my students at this point to use a mantra with them, because it's a really easy, or a much easier way to access meditation. Because everyone's like, I can't meditate, I can't clear my mind. And when you're repeating the mantra and actually feeling the tangible beads, it's a lot more centering and grounding.
The Capricorn again.
Yeah. It's a practice that I was introduced to in my yoga teacher training, and I fell in love with it. So, and after that, I started, making the soaps and the sprays and the candles, and started practicing and started looking into different spiritualities. I draw a lot from Hinduism with my yoga practice. I draw a lot from hoodoo, just all kinds of things. I think there's a lot of cultural appreciation in my practice.
It's syncretism with respect.
Exactly. Yeah. I think if you know what you're doing and you respect it and you don't claim it as like your own, I think that's very different than what a lot of people do.
Or diminish it.
Yeah.
You've had GreenMan since 2009. Is that the holistic fair and this?
No, the holistic fair was very late in the game. Like, I just started that in 2022. And after the pandemic, because everything changed in the pandemic, like, things are different still since then. I didn't know what was going to happen. Honestly, the pandemic was probably the best thing that could have happened for my business, because we were all online at that point. And everybody was confined to their houses, and they were all just shopping online. So I made a significant amount of money, during the pandemic. And then I was like, well, I need to do something. I don't know what to do. So we went down to the beach, and I did my 108 little road opener mantras on the beach at sunrise. And I asked the universe, show me what's next. And 2 days later, the very first lady that I ever did a professional reading for calls me, and she was running Sneaky Pete's, and she's like, would you like to do a fair?
Oh,
yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So then I was like, yes, let's do that. And I used the money from the fair to open the first shop.
Okay.
And then we were traveling and everything anyway. And I was the guest psychic at a little ghost hunt in Bollinger, Texas. And I really decided that I liked the group dynamic. And I was driving home from the thing, and like Aloy was sitting in the passenger seat next to me. I told him, I said, I think I want to start taking people on trips. And he was just like, yeah, okay, because I'm always throwing stuff out there, like it's the aspirations. So we go home, we take a nap, and I wake up to a voicemail from a travel agent who had come to the fair, and she wanted to partner with me to start putting together excursions. And I said yes. And that's how we started taking people on trips. So I am a big believer in, like, if you just ask and then you listen, the universe will take care of you.
Magnetic.
Yeah. I think that prayer is like the asking, and meditation is kind of like the listening for an answer. And I think that the listening is the part that most people forget. So the funny thing is, and you might find this kind of incredible. So Portland, or no, it used to be LA and New York were the metaphysical hubs, right?
Okay.
And then most of that stuff there in those big cities has died. And I was talking to my friend Michael up in New York a couple of years ago, and the real estate is just too expensive. The only reason he was still in business is because he was a nonprofit. Okay. So the hubs have kind of changed, and now it's more Portland, Oregon, and this area. A lot of people are just like, what? Like people move here and they're like, I can't find anything. But once you find it in DFW, there is so much. You know what I mean? Like, we have events, we have fairs, we have a lot of metaphysical shops. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I've seen 14, 15 shops come up and go down, like just disappear. So we just kind of sit back and watch.
When I tell my friends about Texas, the stereotypical images, ultra conservative cowboy hat,
carrying a cow, like leading the cow across the field. Yeah. Our cities aren't like that.
No,
Yeah.
it's very diverse in terms of human representation and just beliefs. It's a big hub.
It really is. And I think that the reason that the metaphysics does so well here in Dallas is because we are in the Bible Belt, and we have a lot of people who need it, who are starving for him. Like, when we first started taking our stuff out to Waxahachie, which is just an hour away, but it is a little more country than Dallas, you know, we would always sell out. Like, always. Like, people are just, like, they need.
They're famished.
They're hungry. Yeah.
This is probably the question that a lot of people are wondering when they come into a space like this.
Okay.
Gemstones and crystals. Are there any stones or crystals that you personally resonate with?
Oh yeah, all the moonstones.
All the moonstones.
I think it changes throughout your journey. When I first started this in 2009, I was all about the jaspers, all about the grounding stones, all about the protection stones. But I was also in an environment that I needed protection. You know, I was in retail, I was working for someone else, and it just was not a safe space. And that's another reason why, you know, I mean, I know safe space is a buzzword, and I normally don't like buzzwords, but that's what I want to create, is a safe space for everybody. Whenever I did not feel safe, I wanted the jaspers, I wanted the grounding stones, I wanted the protection stones. And now that I have created my own space where I have so many protection things set up around this area, now I can focus on other things. So it's clear quartz is always one of my favorites because it just amps up everything. And then all the moonstones, green moonstone especially right now.
What do they do? Enhance your intuition?
It does enhance your intuition, and green moonstone also works on the emotions and the heart chakra as well. Rainbow moonstone is all about, you know, your connection to like goddess energy, more feminine. So any of the moonstones right now are my favorite, but that's, you know, subject to change.
You said the heart chakra. A lot of people, in my experience, tend to focus on wanting to activate their third eye, the upper chakras and so on. But it's very important, right?
They want to start it right from the beginning too. They're like, oh, witchcraft, paganism, metaphysics, let's do this. And they're like so focused on having that like psychic experience, right? So that's one of the things that I've always struggled with is like having, like, they need to back up and they need to start from the bottom and move up, right? Well, you have to maintain your car in order for it to drive you anywhere, right? So let's start with the root chakra, which is the physical body, and then let's move our way up into the crown. You know, that's when you can have your spiritual experience, but you got to clean out all that mess in order to get there.
Right. Or you might open it up and not be able to process it properly.
Exactly. I mean, so a lot of times it opens spontaneously, due to like just experiences that you might have in your life, and usually there's a lot of tumultuousness that goes along with that. That's why we call it a spiritual awakening, right?
Yeah.
And there's one of my favorite books as You're Not Going Crazy, You're Just Waking Up, because when you start to have these experiences, a lot of times it can feel like you're going nuts, just like I was, in college, doing all the drugs to shut the voices up. And that's why I like tarot so much, because it helped me quiet that and figure out how to start. So
Totally get you. For somebody coming into the store and very curious about these stones, these offerings, what would be your suggestion to them, generally speaking? I know everybody is different.
yeah. So of course it would depend on their situation, what they were dealing with, what they were working on. But I mean, if they're really into it, then I would suggest, taking some of the classes, being in the energy, come to some of our events. That's why we have all the events and all the classes and things. Is like I try to do a broad spectrum of interests so that people can come in and feel safe while they're learning this stuff. I can't stress enough how powerful and beneficial it is to have someone where you can go to and say, hey, I had this crazy huge blue light explode in my living room last night. And, then this voice told me blah, blah, blah. And to have them look at you and be like, okay, what else? Instead of like, you're crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what we're doing.
What's next for GreenMan Studios and for you,
So-
broader community?
So right now, like we have our 11th show in September, the last weekend of September at Sneaky Pete's here in Lewisville. The venue is closing. We're really sad about that. It's been around longer than I've been here. So that will be our last show at Sneaky Pete's. I have, over the last 11 shows, we've gotten quite the following for the GreenMan Holistic Fair. So I'm hoping that, as we were talking about earlier, the universe will give me the next venue, but I'm not actively looking. If it's supposed to happen, I feel like it'll just fall into my lap the way that it has in the past. Right now, it feels very synchronous. If that's a word, that's a word. Because we started the fair and used it to open the shop. And then we were there and we had the fair going. Now we've moved into a bigger shop and now the fair is kind of ending. So it just feels like bookends,
Yeah.
So it just feels like the way that it's supposed to be. And right now I feel like we're just going to kind of sink in here to our new location and just really start to try to build the community and really make it, I don't know, just grow, make it bigger. I really want to focus on having all the classes and the different teachers and things in here, the different events that we're doing. We will still have the GreenMan Outdoor Market twice a year in Denton. And then we'll just see what else comes. We are planning a trip. We're taking people. We have 5 people signed up so far. We have 10 spots left. March of 2026, we will be taking people to Ireland and Scotland, which is going to be a lot of fun. I just still plan on doing maybe 1 or 2 trips a year with our clients. It just depends on if the interest is there. So
Where can people who are interested find that information?
So everything is on the greenmanstudios.com. The homepage has a bunch of little boxes and you can sign up for our newsletter there. I send out a monthly newsletter. We have something called the GreenMan Journal where we have people from the community writing different articles and things on different things that they do. Yeah, I'm about to revamp all of that for August.
It sounds very exciting. I wish you all the best for that. Hopefully we can come along on some of those excursions.
Would love that.
I think that's a great note to conclude the interview on. And thanks again, Arthur, for being the first guest in this series. And thanks to GreenMan for hosting the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot decks as part of your inventory of decks for sale. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be here.